I never know how long these songs last. Talk about fun.
Yeah.
Michael Stone in for Mike Valenti. This is the Valenti and Rico show with Michael Stone
How
today.
are you?
Good, Stoney. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Before we jump into everything, speaking of fun, make sure everybody, when you call up, wish Kenny a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kenny Cott.
Make sure you wish Kenny a happy birthday. So, yes, Kenny. He's in the grown man territory now. Yeah. Get in there, Kenny. You're going to have to get a real job and everything.
Yeah, you said at 30, I'm a grown man. And you said at 40, you don't get grown-ass man until you're 40.
Right.
Okay. Just want to make sure I have that
You're just a grown man now. You turned 40.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole different subject.
I did find a graze in the beard the other morning. It was very upsetting.
You are officially 40?
30.
30.
Excuse me, Paul.
Okay.
We're trying to do radio, Paul.
30.
Trying to do radio. Thank you.
Oh, boy. I remember when I was 30.
That was a long time ago
Yeah,
for me. Yeah,
it was. A long time
Yeah, I
ago.
remember when I was 30, man. Yeah.
30, yeah, you know.
Any big plans, Kenny?
No, it's going to be a depressing night in all by myself. Oh, no. The lady works. I'm just going to watch. Actually, it's not going to be depressing because I'm going to have hockey to keep me company.
Good.
That's all I really wanted to do anyway was watch playoff hockey. So mission accomplished there.
Well,
you
you know
gonna
what?
take yourself to brunch
I might.
and not watch it?
No. Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
When I was 30, I was watching playoff hockey in this town. The Red Wings were in the Final Four, losing to Edmonton. That was the Goose Loonies year.
Roberto was trying to remember what he was doing when he turned 30. He can't remember.
Also, the Pistons went to the NBA Finals and got hosed in Game 6 by the officials, and they lost to the LA Lakers in 7 games. That was in 1988 when I turned 30.
Phantom foul?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the Lions were the Lions. And the Tigers were just finally fading out. Anyway, yeah, it was a long time ago.
A long time ago. You know what else seems like a long time ago? The Pistons being relevant.
Yes.
Pistons actually doing something. Of the 4 major sports here in this town, Stoney, they're probably 7 behind the college sports. Like, no one cares about them at all.
Pretty much.
Wojo, I knew it was cold outside because it was. I guess it was January because Wojo finally wrote a piece on firing Troy Weaver. So it's big when Wojo jumps on the bandwagon.
Right. His rationale, we talked about it on the Sportsworks on Sunday, the timing of it, because the lottery is Sunday. Mm-hmm. And we know how the lottery is, really help the Pistons in some ways and hurt the Pistons in other ways. I mean, hell, Troy Weaver's first draft, they did not fare well in the lottery, and they didn't fare well in the draft. Thank you, Troy. That was Killian Hayes instead of
I was about to say, too bad it was nobody else in that draft they could have selected after.
He could have picked either Tyrese, Halliburton, or Maxey.
I mean.
Now, the second year.
Think about this, though. How bad of a first-round selection that when you just go ahead and cut him and release him, nobody picked him up.
No one.
Phone didn't ring.
Yes.
I'm sure he was calling whatever phone provider and saying, I'm just making sure this phone rings. Like, it works, right? Yes, Killian, you're just bad and nobody wants you.
We'll find out how bad if his native land, France, doesn't even pick him up for the Olympics this summer in France.
Somebody's got to roll the balls out there. Pick up the towels.
Well, Tony Parker, it's even the Olympic eligibility. He's from France.
I would probably take Tony Parker over Killian.
Who's the other kid from France who didn't do anything?
I would take
Frank Ntilikina.
I would take a croissant over Killian Hayes.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yes. So you had that. Then the second year is Cade year, right?
Right.
And then the third year was Ivy, which everybody kind of wanted him to take at that position. And then last year was the lottery screwed them because they ended up with the 5th, and we didn't get Victor, and we didn't get Brandon Miller either, or Scoot, but Scoot hasn't really shown much. And we got a really athletic, really good defender who can't shoot, Sar Thompson. So yes. The lottery is Sunday.
Yeah, and then but to make it so bad,
it's not must-see TV this year because nobody really knows any of these guys who are going to be picked in the draft.
No, this will be the year the Pistons will win.
Of course.
They'll win the lottery. They'll
Yes.
have the number one pick, and they won't know where to go because all your top picks are guys from the backcourt, point guards or shooting guards, which is something you absolutely don't need. If you're going for a big man, you're going for somebody whose claim to fame is, well, I played with Wembanyama. That's it.
Yeah.
And then it was all the trades that Troy Weaver did and the free agent pickups that he did. Wojo writes this piece, and it's not eye-opening, it's not revelation, but it is one of those. He's saying that, look, the Pistons have to fire Weaver. That's the only light at the end of the tunnel in order to turn this thing around. Because when you really look at it, unless they strike gold with and they draft a player who all of a sudden becomes their version of a Devin Booker, all of a sudden, who just blooms.
Or like Giannis out of nowhere.
That you just like, okay, I didn't know. Steph Curry, just, okay, well, he was a later round pick, but he ended up being really good. Unless you get a player like that, I don't see. Wojo is saying you got to fire Troy. Now, I think, yes, you have to fire Troy because there's really nothing that you could say like, okay, well, Troy Weaver really did this well. There's nothing. Oh, you took Cade? That was a no-brainer, okay? You had the number one pick. He was sitting right there. You don't get credit for that. All your other things were, okay, you maybe the whole Jalen Duren trade, but all your free agents.
You gave up a number one draft choice that the Knicks have in the deal that you ended up getting Isaiah Stewart.
Brother, I would be trading that. I would tell the Knicks right now, you could have this year's pick. I don't care where it's at.
Yeah.
If it's number one, you can have it. I still think there's another way. There's another way, but I don't think the traders are going to like this.
Well, the problem is, before we get to the other way, is because I agree with Wojo, and you're right. Unless they get lucky, they are in this abyss, and there is no way out unless you're suggesting.
I don't see a way out. So before I give you my 248-539-9797.
The Pistons, the remake of the movie with Gene Hackman, No Way Out.
I mean, if you're a Pistons fans, how do you get from under this rock? How do you make this team better? Because my way is simple. You got to get rid of Cade. Cade is your only piece that you have. He is your only valuable asset. You need to pick up the phone and try to get some of San Antonio's first-round picks and say, hey, pair up Cade with Wemby. You need to call the route and just shop Cade to a team with a ton of first-round selections, multiple first-rounders, and hope that you can, with a new GM. Because here's the thing.
That's
Troy Weaver. Troy Weaver cannot make another pick. We are up there with the Quinn for the Lions. Like, it would be criminal to let this man go into the draft and make another pick because whoever he picks won't be any good.
The problem with Troy Weaver is that he is a talent evaluator and he's not a general manager. You can evaluate talent and see what players can, run the floor and are athletic and can defend. He's pretty good at finding that. The problem is the league has evolved. There's this thing, it's called shooting the basketball from outside 15 feet. That's what they don't have. And that's why you need somebody to figure out who out there can actually shoot the ball through the hoop.
I mean, you constructed a team that plays basketball like they did back in the 90s, but then you bring in a coach who wants to shoot a ton of three-pointers. Like, nothing about this team makes sense. Not only do you have to hit the reset button, you got to just burn this thing all the way down and start all over. I mean, you got to burn down the studs.
Nothing about this franchise makes sense since Bill Davidson died, because his widow decided that it was worth more than it was, and she got stuck and ended up selling it to Gores for a lot less than she originally wanted it to. So, and she could have probably had a much better owner, whoever that would have been, whether it's the Illiches or not. It would have been better shape than they are now. Now, look, Gores is not cheap. He spends money, obviously, on what he's spending on Monty Williams. But he can't hire people to run his team.
But then you overpay for Monty Williams to come and coach
Why?
And he didn't want to come here.
Right.
Like, nothing about this.
You know who they
makes
wanted?
sense.
Everybody. It was between Kevin Ollie, who ended up being the interim in the Nets, okay, and Charles Lee, who was an assistant from Milwaukee and now is just named today the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets from the Boston Celtics. He's an assistant with Boston now.
248.
But Gores came in and said, I need a name. I need a name.
Yeah, here's the thing. The easiest button to say is, you know what, we need a new owner. That's not going to happen.
No.
We know that from years of the Lions
Right.
and now with the Tigers and the Wings. Ownership ain't going to change.
No.
I don't know where the exact care factor is, but I'll say this. You can't bring Troy back. You can't allow Troy to make this. I don't care where you pick. I don't care if it's one, wherever. You cannot allow this man to make another selection for this team. And if you want to get out of this hole, if you want to fix this, you gotta sell off Cade and try to get as many number one picks as you can, first round selections as you can, in order to jumpstart this thing. Because right now, you really have no pieces to this team. Right now, Stoney, if you just opened up and said any NBA team, you could take any player off the Pistons with the caveat he must start for you for at least 65 games next year. Only one person's getting selected. I don't think anybody else on this team would.
Maybe Duran.
He has to start for you.
Maybe.
Not come off the bench, because I think
Maybe.
Duran is a guy on a playoff team. He comes off the bench. He's not starting for you. He's a good player, but he ain't starting for you.
It depends on how for instance, let's say it was San Antonio. Wemby doesn't have to worry about certain things. Duran can do that stuff. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
A good young team he could start on.
248-539-9797. Pistons fans out there, what do they have to do to fix this team? We'll also be talking some Lions later on in the show. But, you can't bring Troy back. Wojo wrote an article, and you can't. There's nothing that this man can do to fix this thing.